So you go back in with that same sort of mental, it's like, okay, here we go again, another Monday, that kind of mentality is like, okay, I can't wait for Friday when I can do, chill out again. But if you've actually created something during the weekend, you say you take that glass of wine out on a Friday night and you roll into a tutorial or into a group, a community that's supporting you in what you're doing, then you all of a sudden you create a life outside of that and you create almost like an alternate world for that. And you can bring so much back in on a Monday morning because you have stuff to talk about and your brain's recharged in a very different way.
That is an excerpt from a wonderful interview that you're going to hear. You're going to meet Camilla. She started Create with Camilla in 2021 to share her creative gift that God gave her to encourage other very busy people to explore their own creativity. And she believes that everyone deserves the chance to slow down, tap into their artistic side, and experience those moments of joy and inspiration that creativity brings. She doesn't even have an art degree. She actually studied international business and spent years in the fast-paced, multinational corporate career. And while she loved her job, the long hours left her feeling drained and creatively empty. So one day she signed up for an art class, and that simple act of painting brought energy, joy, and a surprising sense of confidence. And she started to see herself through a new, more colorful lens. Today, she helps others experience that same shift. So whether you're an experienced artist or a complete beginner, her coaching method is designed to help you unwind and reconnect with your creativity and have a whole lot of fun in the process. So grab your warm cup of coffee or maybe even that glass of wine and listen in. Hello, beautiful Redlow women. How are you today? It's Terri here, your coach and biggest cheerleader. I'm here to put a little bit of inspiration in your day. Welcome to the Redlow Women podcast, where we empower midlife women to reclaim their confidence, rise higher, and step boldly into their next chapter. And we do it together. I became a midlife entrepreneur after overcoming my own self-doubt to start this podcast, write my book, and coach women just like you. And I did it all in my 50s. I knew I wanted more after navigating my own life transitions, overcoming some really hard things, and trying to figure out what was next. As I did, I decided to help you do the same. So grab your warm cup of coffee or step into your favorite tennis shoes and let's step forward together. Let's go. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Redlow Woman podcast. I am very excited about my guest today, Camilla Pagliaroli. We met online through LinkedIn, actually, and through a course that we're both taking right now. And it is such a joy for me to have women on here who are stepping forward, starting businesses, and making an impact. And so Camilla is one of them. She's going to share her story. She actually is what I consider an art coach, but I'm going to let her tell her story about how she went from corporate to coaching and where she is now with this. She's incredibly fascinating. So let's dive into this. Welcome, Camilla. I'm so grateful you're here. Thank you so much. Thanks for saying yes.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Terri. I'm excited to get to know you better too.
Welcome. Well, let's just kind of dive into this a little bit because I'm super intrigued. I was sharing with you before we hit record that when I was 12, my grandmother signed me up for an oil painting class, and it was probably one of the best things she ever did. I remember sitting there and how relaxing it was. I've always had kind of this creative side, and so I love what you do and I'm intrigued by it and the impact that you're having. So share a little bit about your background and what you do. Tell everybody on the podcast.
Of course, yes. So I feel like I have a little bit of a similar, I think a lot of us have a similar feel. When we grew up, we enjoyed being creative in whatever way or shape that it could have been. And then life often happens and it takes you into corporate or it takes you into any other kind of industry or whatever you go into. And sometimes that falls by the wayside. And so that's pretty much what happened with me. I was working in corporate for decades and didn't really have a creative outlet. So until one day, one of my friends and I said, actually two friends of mine, when I was still living in England, she said, why don't we just, buy a set of paints and then we're just going to paint for the weekend. So we toddled off to the local art store and then just told them I had a picture of what I wanted to paint. And I said, can you sell me the supplies for this? And they just looked at me and were like, you're going to paint that? because it was a fairly famous painting. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. And so I did that weekend and I was hooked. I just bought acrylics and I was really intrigued by the fact that I could actually create what I had in my head and it came out decently. So I realized this was something that I actually had a talent for that I didn't think about. I'm still worked in corporate for years and years after that, but it was an interesting the first aha moment I had when it came to art.
What did you do in corporate? Because I know you say you enjoyed it, but it also had to be a bit of a grind. I mean, I have two kids. I know you were in New York. We have two kids that live in New York, and it can be a grind. It's wonderful, but it's a pretty high pace. And so, what did you do when you were in corporate? What was your career?
So I started out with actually project management,
Mm,
and I started out working in Europe, and my area of expertise was working, or my area of responsibility was working in Asia Pacific. So I traveled, I spent a lot of time on airplanes to start
wow.
with. And then eventually I moved over to corporate communications because it's kind of a funny story, slid into it a little bit because my degree is in business management. But I slid into the communications side because I worked for one of the biggest brands in the world. I worked for Nokia back in the day
Wow.
when it was just not even on top of the mobile tech, but when they had a massive industry of everything, they had so many irons in the fire and so many different branches of things that they were doing. And I was doing an internal support role, working between HR and IT department. And I realized I don't even know what this company all stands for. I don't
Oh, wow.
know all the things they do. So, and I was curious, and curiosity has always been one of the things that drives me. So I was like, I need to work in a portion of this company when I can actually find out what makes this company tick. And
Mm,
I wanted to tell people about that. So that's how I ended up in communications, which is sort of for most part, I was doing some website and I was doing some internal communication and then I was doing corporate communications. So it's both towards the employees a little bit, but then eventually I ended up doing what people know as public relations, like
oh, wow.
PR with the journalists and bloggers and things like that. So I was in a relative creative space. So I worked originally, like I said, I worked out of Europe. So my first corporate part was in England. And then I moved over to New York, lived in the city and worked just outside of the city and such. And it was, like you said, yes, it was a grind, but I
Mm,
loved it. Because I was connecting with people. I was just working a lot with different people. But I also traveled a lot to the West Coast. It was tiresome
yeah.
and there's always personality dynamics and everything. So I was doing the long, 60-hour week
Yeah.
easily. And it was before, you didn't really work at home or it was frowned upon a little bit more. So what I ended up finding is when I got married, I found my husband in New York,
Ah,
uh, and we got married and he worked in evening shift at his job at the time. So I was like, well, I have time on my hands. And the local Y had an art class. And I was like, I painted a couple of paintings a few years ago. Why not take that up again? So I did, and it was like a once a week and 3 hours. And of course, you know how it is. You don't get there the first hour because you're busy working. But, I got there. And when I first got into that class, I was painting stick figures. I was literally doing the copy paste. Like I was
mhm.
looking at what I was supposed to paint, and then I was just trying to copy it onto a canvas. But after like an hour and a half, something switched in my brain
Wow.
and I started flowing and I could start creating. And it
Mm,
was amazing. I was like, oh, wow, I really need to make sure that I can try to get here on a regular basis because I was so tired when I got there. And when I went home, I was so energized, not to the point where I couldn't sleep, but it was like, I was a completely different person. And I was,
wow.
wow, there is something going on here.
Wow. That's amazing. And I think, being in such a work mode always, and even as an entrepreneur, we all do this, right? So whether you are in corporate or whether you're an entrepreneur, we're constantly on and working and working. I think so often we don't take that time to allow ourselves to be creative. And there's so much power. The data now comes out and shows how powerful that is. Do you want to share a little bit about that? It's like some of the data, we need this creativity, to improve our quality of life, right? And kind of connect with ourselves again. We get so lost. So I just love this. I love what you're doing. So do you want to share a little bit about that? I think that's just so fascinating.
Yeah, sure. I am not a scientist, and I was as blown away, I think, as you were when I just shared just a couple of these statistics that are part of life, because there's a lot of research going into this now. I don't know why that's been triggered but I was so excited to see that, there's like, even if you just do 45 minutes of some kind of creative activity, it doesn't have to be painting, it can be, sculpting or gardening or whatever it is, you reduce your cortisol levels by 75%. And the cortisol is the main stress hormone. And
Wow.
that is what I experienced. I had no words for it. I didn't know what it was, but that's astounding to me. That's like so intense because when you consider that, it's not just the stress hormone, but it lowers anxiety.
Mm,
It builds up your confidence in a way that you have like this sense of achievement when you create a work of art. It might not
yeah.
be perfect, it might not
Right.
turn out exactly the way you want, but you've created something, you have made something, and it just triggers like the dopamine in your brain. And it
Yeah.
just triggers a really amazing feel-good factor. And the crazy thing was, and I didn't have an art coach who could tell me this. So my progress was extremely slow and I wasn't able to work on it. And that's kind of that comes forward to where what I'm wanting to do right now, because I want to speak to my former self and I want to go,
Mm,
hey, look, if you could do this and work with a coach who could help you actually maximize what you're doing and doing it in such a way that you can actually have a lasting impact. Because I see that the benefits that you do, you have the sense of accomplishment and you have a confidence that you can do, and you have a different level of motivation because you realize that you have to work at something
mm,
and it's not always easy, but
mm,
it teaches resilience
mm.
and it teaches the joy of delayed gratification because the end result is worth the whole thing. So even in like project management, that's huge because
Yeah.
you build on every experience that you have on things like that. And so the payoff is massive and your attitude, it's like the recharges the brain. So
Mm,
bring that back to the boardroom, bring that back to your team at work. And you have a different perspective on things. Not just because, at least for me, it was the first step was like, hey, I have a life outside of work. This is not the be all and end all. And working in like corporate New York, it was like, it was my life and I loved
yeah.
it, but it was out of balance.
Yeah. I was thinking as you're talking that so many of us, we're on that hamster wheel. It's just, it becomes kind of that grind. We don't even give ourselves permission to go have fun, to be playful, to be creative, to do these things. And yet, just like what you're saying, it really enhances the quality of our life. It probably enhances our work, right?
Absolutely. It absolutely improves what we do at work. And there's like a thing, I see exactly what you're saying. And what I would feel like doing when I sort of came home, or if you nowadays, a lot of people work from home, it's like you just kind of you pour yourself a glass of wine and you start binge watching something, or you
Right.
go out with some friends and you do whatever it is, or you go on the treadmill, whatever it is, and you do these de-stressing activities.
Yeah.
And they're amazing and they're great. And I have nothing against binge watching something for a couple of hours. But if you do something like that, and that's all you do for, say, a weekend, if you happen to have, Saturday and Sunday off or whatever it is, then you go back to work on Monday and you didn't process anything. You didn't change
Mm,
anything about your life. You did not create anything. You didn't have a thing that you made that you were proud of. So you go back in with that same sort of mental, it's like, okay, here we go again, another Monday, that kind of mentality is like, okay, I can't wait for Friday when I can do, chill out again. But if you've actually created something during the weekend, you say you take that glass of wine out on a Friday night and you roll into a tutorial or into a group, a community that's supporting you in what you're doing, then you all of a sudden you create a life outside of that and you
Mm.
create almost like an alternate world for that. And you can bring so much back in on a Monday morning because you have stuff to talk about and your brain's recharged in a very different
Mm.
way. And that I think is worth so much.
Wow. This is such an insightful conversation because I'm thinking so much about when you're talking about what this does, especially you and I shared a little bit before we started recording, just about, how much time we all spend on our phones. We have to be so disciplined. That dead scroll, like much like what you're talking about, binge watching or the dead scroll on our phone, or even with AI, we can get so lost in it for hours. And we almost just shut down and shrink our brain versus enhancing it with what you're saying. Go recharge by doing something creative, persevere, do it messy, right? When you think about painting, I think about to my childhood. The best part about painting, you didn't like it, you could pick up a brush the next day and go back to it and start again or change it, right?
Exactly.
Solving problems in a different way. I think it opens up different. I mean, I'm not a doctor in neuroscience or anything, but just it makes me think about opening up neural pathways in a different way. Like, I think it's so powerful. And I think, is there a lot of resistance within the corporate space? That's kind of your age, your demographic? Is it corporate and maybe entrepreneurs too?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a few different strands on my part, but the part that I feel like I'm most passionate about is
Yeah,
reaching out to the corporate person who was like me, just
yeah.
to even know. And sort of I was in a way I was lucky to find that in-person art class that I could take. But if I had really been able to take it a few steps further, I would have seen a different level of improvement. I would have been able
Mm,
to work with it and have it become more part of my life. And I would have been able to take like different types of lessons learned through doing art into my corporate world. As it was, I was starting to make art and it helped me to get distance to my job because it
mm,
was becoming a little bit stressful. I had a few peer workers that eventually became higher up management that were not working with me, but
mm,
working a little bit against what I was doing and the way that I was approaching things. And that happens. And
yeah.
I felt like so many people because I left the corporate world in 2008. So that
Oh,
was
okay.
just literally about the time when that big crazy happened, the big crash happened again. So it was just
Yeah.
before that. And so people were starting to be stressed out. And a lot of people I felt were doing this thing whereby they were thinking the company was gonna help them out or do things for them. So they often sided with a company than with a person.
Mm,
And for me, I always felt like, wait a minute, that company's never going to love you back.
right.
But I felt like I'd already started having a healthier distance to it during that last, because it was only literally like 7 or 8 months that I was doing this. But it helped me pull back emotionally from my
Mm,
work in a very healthy way.
yeah.
And it helped, like, that they're creating art, the science, we were talking about the neuroscientists and everything. It's like it's that prefrontal cortex where you have decision making, where you focus, and when you regulate your emotions, that is where the change also happens. So
Wow.
that neural connectivity and including like memory recall and things like that. It's like there's an insane amount of studies that tell you how like cognitive and emotional benefits. So for me, just seeing that little part, but I didn't have anybody to share it with.
Yeah.
So I ended up on not the burnout cycle per se, because I know people who have burnout and I will empathize a lot with that because I can't really say that I went that far. I
Right.
just know that when I jumped off the New York rat race, my husband and I moved to Tuscany, Italy.
Oh,
And started working as a consultant in as a service development and in the luxury yacht industry. And I told them, I was like, I can only work 4 days a week. That is it, because I have to feel the distance. I have to
Mm.
get to the point where I'm not going back into the rabbit race of the anything of that I was living and working in New York. And so that was kind of an interesting switch. And that's in Italy, when we were in Italy, is actually where I started painting a little bit more. Literally, like, under the Tuscan sun.
Right?
We lived in a house, our landlords had olive grove. And so I was painting out on the balcony underneath in the shade of the big olive tree. And then finally somebody said to me, because they saw the art, I just put it up on the walls, and they're like, hey, can I commission you to paint something for me? And so it's like, sure, yeah, that's an interesting idea. So that's when I started selling art. And I would never have dreamed that that was possible. And exhibiting, I had, through my art class in New York, I'd exhibited, but, being able to do something like that. And it was primarily for the American community in Italy. So that was an interesting twist on the whole thing, because when both our girls are born in Italy. So
Oh,
after we had,
wow.
I actually was able to step down and just be a stay-at-home mom. And so I started painting a little bit more in between naps, and you know how it is.
Yeah.
And also I started working as a tour planner for incoming groups coming to Italy, because back in the day when I was in college, I worked as a tour guide in Europe. So I was like, hey, I'm just living in one of the most sought after places. So that was my first reinvention, so to speak, where I just completely left the corporate world behind. And I was actually quite happy about it for that time being. I needed time to heal.
Wow. I just, as you're talking, like I've got this just smile on my face. I just envision you there, truly, like under the Tuscan sun. Just what a gift to be there, to just enjoy that, sipping wine, painting, enjoying just the beauty and just the culture too. I think to slow down a little bit in a little bit different way to really deepen connection. I think when I think about Italy, I think about the connections with families and people and food and art. What a wonderful part of your story to have experienced. And as I'm talking, I can see paintings. Have you painted the pictures that are in the background on your wall? Are those your paintings?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Everything in
wow.
this house pretty much is my paintings. Apart from this one is one of my daughters, because she was at my art camp this summer as my junior counselor. And so
Oh,
she tried to
wow.
paint Mount Fuji
Wow. Just
again.
so fascinating. And I was thinking the other thought that I had is it kind of goes beyond like an art coach. It's almost like art therapy, Like that's what it seemed like. I can just feel it. Like it just makes me smile. Like I think it's just really, really powerful what you do.
Yeah, no, I feel like that now, because what ended up happening, fast forward to, I mean, I can talk Italy for hours.
Oh, I could talk
I
to
don't know,
you.
we don't have hours. So fast forward to us coming back to the United States after 8.5 years. When I came here, I thought that I was just going to pick up and start this, exhibiting art and selling it,
Yeah.
realizing very quickly that I was just a nobody. Like I was a tiny fish in a big pond of very creative community. And so I couldn't sell any art, because it really is about who you know. People buy
Wow.
relationships. So what was interesting is I was asked if I could teach at a private gated community. They had a visual arts club, and they needed somebody to teach beginners acrylics. And I'm like, sure, I can do that. I suppose, like, yeah, I can do that. I like coaching, and part of my corporate career has been in coaching and media training,
Right.
as in within project management, teaching people about new systems and things. So I was like, yeah, I can do that. And so I stumbled into this component, and that was back in 2019. And then, of course,
Oh,
I
wow.
thought I was going to start doing this, and COVID hit.
Ah,
So we all just like slowed down and just, homeschooled and did all of those things for a little bit. And then in 2021, the year after, I picked it back up, and I just sort of launched my social media site, posted a few pictures of what I've done and contacted a few people, and then it just kind of grew from there. So I did a little analysis of last year in 2024, and I realized that it was very close to 1,000 people that I have done arts and crafts, because I've also branched into some resin art here too. But just almost 1,000 people just in one year that I work.
Wow.
And the majority of them are adults, like 90 or 90+% of those are adults. So coming back to that therapy part is what I see, because a lot of us have gone to some paint and sips, and that's pretty much the style that I'm going for. I do some learn to paint workshops too that are a little bit longer,
Okay.
and then we go into, and I always tell people I have no art background. This is just a corporate turned art coach. So
Yeah.
you're gonna not have the fancy terminology. And I feel like people actually relate to that
Yeah,
because
I would think
I'm on the same wavelength. I am no different than you are. I don't have, a fancy degree, or I didn't study in Florence, although I wish I would have, but
yeah.
my kids were too small. And so, yeah, so I see people come into my create and sip events or whatever it is, and they come in, and they can come in after work, and they're busy, they're tired, they're stressed, and it's the same. I look at them and I see me, and I see that
Mm,
transformation. My events are 2 hours, and we go through all those emotions, from like, I can't do this. Are you kidding me? Who do you
right.
think I am? I'm not going to be able to do this. It looks complicated. To like, I just work step by step, just like easy, easy, easy. And coming out at the other end, you usually have a dip in the middle where as well, where whatever it is you're creating, you're like, that doesn't look anything like what I thought it was going to do. So I'm going to give up. And I was like,
Mm,
don't ever give up. Just keep
mm,
working it, because even the big artists have that. And then we just end up at the end, and they go home and they have a smile on their face, and they have that dopamine hit is
yeah.
so powerful. And it's just amazing to see people's, like, it's just that little tiny transformation. And I listen, and it's like people have stuff they want to share. And what happens stays there. It's not like I go home and I blurt it to the world or anything.
Right. Wow, that it makes me think about too, like, back in the day when there were knitting circles or quilting circles, like it's like a painting circle where people come together,
Oh,
they're having,
that's hugely popular still.
is it
That,
really?
oh my gosh, yes. After COVID, knitting circles and
Wow.
everything. Oh, that just popped up.
Wow. But I mean, you're kind of creating that same kind of community. Because do you do this in person? Is that mainly where you've gone with this with your business is doing this in person?
Yes, so I
Okay.
have primarily done it in person. I have done a few online parties, absolutely, but my target audience, and of course, I've been doing this part-time with
Yeah.
kids at school and everything. So I have focused on in-person parties for the most part.
Mm.
And now that I feel like I really have that under my belt, so to speak, and the machinery is rolling, for lack of a better word, I'm not boastful about it. I'm just saying that I've got it to a place where I feel like, a friend of mine talked to me about, like, you spin a plate, and if you feel like you can keep it up in the air, you can move on to like adding another plate, but don't do it until you've got one that that you can handle, so to speak. And I feel like this is something that I have seen so many things, and I've done it for almost 5 years now, 4.5 years, that I
Wow.
feel like, okay, I know the impact this has, and more I am feeling like I want to have that impact on the people, on the me, the younger me, the corporate executive who doesn't have a good work-life balance. So I'm excited. That's what I want to do. I'm literally just starting out to kind of feel it out a little bit, but I know that everybody I've talked to tells me that this is a great idea. And to just combine that corporate know-how and corporate understanding of what it means, and understanding the cadence of what
Yeah.
work is like. So basically, what I want to do is I want to reach out to the person who doesn't have that work-life balance. They might be a person who never thought that they could be an artist, and
Mm,
it doesn't have to be painting necessarily, but of course that's where I started, and that was an easy in for me. So that's my strong suit, so that's where I'm going to start. But they might be a person who's like, okay, I'm going to go paint. I'm going to, get together with somebody, or I'm going to paint this weekend. And then you go and you start surfing for an online tutorial, and you find and you spend, time doing that, and you find something, it's not right, or you're just like, okay. And so there's an uphill battle for the next time you want to do it, because then you have to start from scratch, and nobody's holding you to the fire and say, hey, what did you create? Or you don't have the feedback loop when you're not meeting with other people. So for me, my dream is to kind of create that sort of a community
yeah.
where where there is like mutual accountability and mentorship, and where I can be a part, because I can bring in the art coaching, and I can understand the other part, and I can understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
Because there's pretty much nothing that you're going through that I haven't gone through. So
Yeah.
so that's part of what I want to do. And that's hoping to kind of connect with people in that space. In addition to, yes, so I've got a few other things that are brewing. I'm also I've created a course for artistic or creative entrepreneurs who
Uh-huh.
want to work more in, because a lot of people work in bars, restaurants, breweries, distilleries, whatever it is, or you have your own mobile studio, and you spend a lot of time working on the marketing, you spend a lot of time creating the back end systems for the payments and this and that and the other. So you spend a lot less time actually creating and
Yeah.
actually teaching. So what I've discovered is like, I can't do that. I don't have the bandwidth to do that. So I decided pretty much early on that I need to work with these types of gated communities, with resorts, with like whatever art museums or communities, that golf clubs. We happen to live close to where there's an enormous amount of golf clubs and golf courses, and just kind of work with them, because they are the ones, there's always a gatekeeper, and they're the ones that are reaching
Mm,
their members. And so I am able to kind of get in and pitch to them and teach them and work with a larger group of people without having all that work that takes so much time, the social media posting and all of
yeah.
that. And so I realized that not everybody does this. And I realized that I have something to share here. So that's why I decided, just, it's a short course that I'm launching this summer, just an online video-based course. So if anybody's interested in that, happens to be watching this and are in the solopreneur, small entrepreneur creative space, it doesn't have to be painting, of course, but it's, if you're teaching outside of your studio, basically.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. And I discovered that, to my surprise, that people did not do this. And it was like a niche that I realized that this is really useful. And it's so interesting to me, because again, I'm drawing on my corporate background. I know how
Yeah.
to relate those emails. I know how to speak, and I know how to, to them. I can relate to the corporate headquarters of all these golf courses and hotel chains and things like that. So
Wow, that's
that's the
so
thing.
great.
Yeah. And then my fun project, which I
Okay, share your
yeah,
fun projects.
so when we lived in Italy, of course, so I did a lot of the tour guiding and I did some planning as well. So I created a tour that we ran for the 5 years that I was running it, and I was working as a tour guide and a tour um, guide on, a tour guide on it. And as far as I was aware, they still continued running it with different people after I left. So anyway, so that aside, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And it's just COVID kind of put a brake on everything, and
Yeah.
just other things in life get in the way. But this year, I'm finally going to be able to do my first paint and sip in Italy.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, so I'm planning to take a group of about 20 people, because I want to keep it in the place where I can actually do some paint and sip parties too. So I'm taking people to some of my favorite places, some favorite haunts, favorite wineries, and I'm working with my some tour guides in Florence that I know, that kind of thing. But I also want to go to some new places. So it's a 10-night trip to Italy in the fall. And
Wow.
I decided I created it such that it would start on a Friday and finish on a Monday, so that it would be bookended by 2 weekends for people who have to take time off of work. And so I'm working with an incoming agent in Italy because I am not a travel agent. I have worked in the travel industry, of course, but I don't have all the credentials and everything. So I'm working with an incoming agent. This guy, this Napolitan guy who's like, he's been smoking his entire life and he's got this voice, so we speak Italian to each other when we communicate. It's good practice for me too. And so he's like, yeah, it's like I'm gonna just translate it into English roughly what he said when he read my itinerary. He's like, it's almost like I want to go on this tour myself.
Oh,
I
wow.
know this is what you do. This is what you've done for decades. And this is your
Mm.
livelihood. For you to tell me that, I know I'm on gold.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So if people, I mean, because we'll kind of refresh you a little bit and go back. People can connect with you in several ways, but if people want to take this trip with you, should they reach out on LinkedIn? Do you have a website or an email? I'll put the email here in the show notes for them to connect with you. What's the best way for
Yeah,
them to reach
that
you?
is the best way because
Okay.
basically they can DM me on LinkedIn for sure,
Okay.
or they can certainly email me as well because technically this trip has been sold out
Okay.
a
Okay.
little. However, we have had some cancellations.
Okay.
So I do have spots available right now.
Okay.
So if anybody's interested, I'd be more than happy to send them the itinerary or tell them more about it or point them to the website for sure,
Yeah.
so that they can kind of read up on it. But yeah,
Oh, that sounds amazing. And remind me, did you say that's in the fall? Did you say October?
Mhm.
Is that right?
It is starts on the 26th of September
Oh,
and
September. Okay.
yeah, finishes on the 6th of October.
Oh,
And the
wow.
trip starts and finishes in Italy from my perspective. I'm not dealing
Okay.
with affairs because I have people coming from all over the United States. So everybody's just, I'm like telling them, be here at this time, be in Milan, fly into Milan, and then we're flying out of Rome. Most people are flying out of Rome or kind of going other places in Europe. I have a couple who are like, hey, we're just going to go to France and Paris firsthand, and take a train down to Milan, and we'll meet you there. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do that is because people
Mm,
can extend and do whatever else they want to do in Europe at the same time by
wow.
not being confined to kind of like flying in and out at the same time.
Wow. So do you have certain hotels or where
Oh,
that you're staying
absolutely.
so you have the whole itinerary where people
I
need
have
to
the whole,
stay.
yes, I have
Okay.
the whole itinerary where it's mostly 4-star hotels or some of
Okay.
we're staying like at a winery. So that doesn't really have the same kind of rating. So we're staying 3 nights in Chianti and then 2 nights in Milan. We're staying 2 nights in Rome and 2 nights on the on the Ligurian Tuscan coast, just south of the Cinque Terre, at a seaside resort where I actually used to work. So that was kind of
Wow.
fun for me. So yeah, and then so there's a lot of things that I've included just because I can. I'm not honestly, I should charge a ton more. Everybody says that, but this is for me. It's kind of like that whole thing. It's like I want to do it. I want you guys to experience what I've experienced. So it's like I've added a base tour and then I've just built on top of it with extra tours and things like that. And I've like built in, so a lot of people are their Florence full day tour in Florence. We're going to some galleries and we're got a local tour guide. And I've included that, that kind of thing. Because I just need everybody to experience that who hasn't. And like I have a wine tasting dinner that I'm just gonna include and some paint parties, of course, that kind of
Wow.
thing.
So this is going to be on my bucket list. I hope you can do this next year because I would love to go. This would be on my bucket list to go by myself without my husband, just myself, and just to go enjoy, um, paint and just truly. I mean, I went to Rome, and Florence and then down to Capri when I was in my 20s, early 20s. And when our son got married in Austria, now 3 years ago, I went to just tiny part of Italy, but it was a blip, like for 2 nights. So this is on my bucket list. So keep me on your list. I'd love to do
Right.
this with you. This would be an absolute dream. Like I just fun, like awesome.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it
Yeah.
because it's the crazy thing is I haven't been back since since we left because of COVID. We were supposed to
Yeah.
be back, and then we've just had other travels that we've had to do and we wanted to do. So this is my first time back in Italy since we actually left, which is pretty crazy. But
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty exciting. So what I decided to do for the folks like you is I'm actually going to fly out early and I'm
Mhm.
going to go to some of these places and I'm going to create a virtual Italy experience, like a virtual Italy painting experience. So, excuse me. So I'm going to be painting on site, in Chianti and Val d'Orcia, and then on the coast and up Lake Como. And then
Oh,
I'm not sure, it's somewhere in Rome, like under the olive groves kind of thing. And so that people can, and then just have that as an experience for people to kind of buy into that experience after I come home and get it edited and looking pretty.
wow, that's amazing. I'm so glad we connected. This is so fun. I told you, I'm so excited. I just love what you do. I think there's such a need for this. I mean, just you can see, it just makes my heart so happy. And
Oh, that's
we
awesome.
all need to lean into this fun part of us. And I think so many of us have just been stuck in the grind for, we need to just give ourselves permission to go have some fun and enjoy life we really do and lean into this creative side of ourselves. And even if we're not super creative, I don't even think like you're sharing, that's not even really the point. The point is tapping into it
Yeah.
and going beyond the perfectionism. It's yes, the art is part of it, but it's a bigger picture, right? Like I
Oh,
see,
so much more. And yes, and
yeah,
I'm fully aware, not everybody is going to come and join my art world, so to speak. Like
right.
my husband, he's a gardener. That's his thing. And he
Ah,
enjoys creating art and landscaping and things like that and growing things. I mean, I
yeah,
know full well not everybody. And I so have so many people who've been dragged to these craft parties or things and
yeah.
by their friends. And my job is to make it fun no matter what
Mm,
and to kind of do that. So I was just speaking to a lady yesterday on a conference call, and she was like, "I am so not Camilla. I'm not the artsy person. I really cannot do anything like that." But she was saying that her sharing that when she a few months after she had twins, her and her husband were able to go away just for a weekend, and she said they were doing pottery. I could paint pottery in that whatever resort or wherever they were. And she's like, I would just sit there and I would just paint pottery after piece after piece. She's like, I think I probably painted like 10 or 15 pieces that
wow.
in that weekend. She said it was just so therapeutic. And I am not artistic. That was not why I did it. And I was like, that is it. You
Yeah.
nailed it. That is exactly because you came back different
Mm.
with a different level of energy to take care of your baby twins.
Wow, isn't that beautiful? Like
Yeah.
I just resonates so much with me, so I love that. I have a quick question. So when you're doing these, like when you're doing these in-person painting events, or I'm focusing on painting. It seems like you do other things with the arts and crafts, but with the painting, like I've done, I've taken painting lessons and done that where I'm creating my own thing, and then I've also done like what we call Pinot's palette here, where you go and
Mm.
they have the actual painting there and you follow along and paint your own version of it, right? So when you're doing it, how is yours structured? Is yours like free flowing, you create your own thing, or do you follow something that you have and people follow along and kind of create their own version of it?
It really depends on the project for the
Okay.
most. If
Okay.
somebody says a group or a venue says that, hey, it's shrimp festival, we want to paint shrimp, whatever it is.
Okay.
If it is a design that is complex enough that I have to like pre-trace it for them, if it's a paint party, then usually everybody can paint whatever they want to do, and I can print instructions and I walk around.
Okay.
But I personally love doing the other way around, where I actually paint with people
Mm,
and I can like walk around because I feel like so much is lost if I can't show. what I'm
Mm.
doing. And the cool thing about doing things like this online is, yes, I'm not going to be able to walk around with people, but I also, you can pause me and you can go
Mm.
and figure out, and you can pick it back up when you want to, or things like that. So there is like a huge benefit to that as well. But I feel like if you're coming to something like that, you want a visual. So you want to kind of see, it's like, I show people like some simple techniques from getting to from A to B, and it makes a huge amount of difference.
Mm.
So like how you, if you want to create a sunset, because of course I'm on the East Coast here, so we create a lot of sunset
Oh,
paintings. But I work
beautiful.
at a resort. I do their canvas and Cabernet once a week in the summer months, and so there's a lot of beachy sunset, palm tree type of paintings. You
Yeah.
know, pull out the surfboards or the margaritas or whatever it is, the beach chairs you want to put on it,
Yeah.
but. So basically, like, how do you create a sunset? How do you put that gradient
Mm.
in the sky with those different colors? And
Mm.
that can look very daunting, but there's a very simple technique, and everybody goes,
Mm.
"What? This isn't so hard." It's
Wow.
that kind of thing that I love to be able to show people what to do. And you start
Wow.
out, you have a blank canvas, everybody has the same,
Yeah.
and all the paintings turn out differently. And I just love that. Some people just create what they want to create, put more color, less color, different colors, all of that. And that's part of like finding what works for you. And
Mm.
so it's so interesting because, like I said, I've painted so many years now that I also was very excited to take up some crafting and do some very different things.
Yeah.
I'm doing sort of a lot with resin and crushed glass and sea glass and things
Oh,
like that. And so that's a very different process too. Like then I show people step by step or show them the key steps and then they create and I walk around
wow.
and we always talk. I always find out where people are from, what makes them tick.
Mm.
Like last night, I had a party where this couple got engaged on Tuesday night. So they were sharing with the whole group about how, it's like you get to know these people. And it's
Yeah.
so much fun. And
Huh.
that's part of the community because I've also taught where I have people, it's like, I know you, or they come back and they're like, oh, let's sit together because we created this 2 weeks ago, or a month ago, or 2 years ago. And then they start coming back and they create a friendship.
Wow.
And so that's the other component, what I really see, because especially for us women, we are created
Mm.
to be in fellowship with each other and be
Yeah.
encouraging. And sometimes I see people go like, oh, this looks really bad. And I'll take their artwork from them and I'll put it up so that they can get a perspective and get a little
Yeah.
distance from it. Because that's what you can how you can see what it really is going to look like, not when you have it like right in front of your face.
Yeah.
And inevitably, their friends around them are going to go, oh, that's really pretty. Oh, that's so nice. And something switches in your brain, and you go, what? They're encouraging me, and they think I should fix that or this. And then all of a sudden, you have a different found confidence when you're working in community. And that's the other important part that I want to create as well.
Wow. There's just so many wonderful metaphors to this whole thing with what you're doing, right? I mean, that's what I keep thinking as you're talking, and like I said earlier, as we continue to move along with AI, this need for connection is going to become even stronger. It's even more important. And just these simple things that we forget. And there's such power in it in so many ways. And what a great analogy, even as you're talking about, painting on a canvas, a blank canvas, that's how we
Yeah.
start out and we all evolve and it all comes out different. That's our journey in life where we are, we're all different. And just the connection, the community that you're creating, getting people to talk and talk about their life and celebrate where they are and encourage each other. So many great, great, great things. It's wonderful.
Yeah,
Really
yeah, it
beautiful.
is.
Wow.
I consider myself extremely blessed to have been able to get this opportunity and to be able to, like, the doors were opened for me to do this. And I recognize that not everybody's got the chance to jump off a corporate
Mm,
ladder like I did. But I feel just as strongly that if you balance your life, then you're able to think about your life in a different, like strategically in a different
mm,
way. You're able to plan, you're able to start dreaming, like you get your head out of that
mm.
immediate, like, uh, sort of you can't see the trees for the forest when you're like in it, so to speak.
Yeah.
But when you have perspective and you have somebody
Yeah.
that is kind of helping you to gain that perspective, then I feel like it's worth gold. It
Oh,
really is.
for sure. So when you're doing these, I mean, where are you located, by the way? What?
I, I'm located in the Low Country in Beaufort, South Carolina, Beaufort County. So
Oh, beautiful. Wonderful. So just to kind of backtrack a little bit. So you do these parties, like your creative parties in person. You do them for adults. You also do them corporately. So you would go into a corporation. Is that
mhm.
right? Or people, you go to the location or do people come to you?
That's a funny one. I have been to corporations and like dentist offices and things like that, but
Oh,
I will tell
wow.
you that the majority of people actually don't want to create in their working space. They prefer that I help them find a venue, like a brewery or a distillery or a restaurant or a place where they can just be themselves. Like, for example, teachers. They just want to be going to a place where they can just be themselves, not be seen, not be heard, but just kind of hang out and do their
Wow.
thing. Bring their own bottle if it's a gallery or something like that. So it works both ways. It really does. If you the corporation or the club or the place has a space or the church,
Yeah.
then we go there. If not, I help them find a venue.
Wow, that's so interesting. I didn't even really think about that, but that's really kind of a power. That says a lot too, that people don't want to do this in their place of work for the most part. They want to go outside of that
Yeah.
and just kind of regroup, recollect, be themselves, let their hair down, I guess, for lack of a better
Yep.
word, right?
Exactly.
And step into that. Wow, super cool. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So
Okay.
you do that in person. Then you have this new course that you're launching, so people even like me can sign up. We
Absolutely.
can paint along with you, paint along with Camilla, right? Or do is or a craft. Is that right?
Yes. So the course that I'm so there's two things. So a trip that I'm doing to Italy is going to be in September. So
Okay.
I in September I'm going to be recording painting tutorials from Italy, and
Okay.
possibly I'm sort of toying with the idea of going to France as well. And so
Wow.
I would paint there and I'm recording tutorials, and that is the course that I'm going to be selling after I come back home. So
Wow,
that would
that's
be for anybody who wants to just be creative and have like a virtual Italy tour and sort of like see a little bit about it and enjoy what I've enjoyed and hear me talking about Italy and stuff and see the visuals of the environment and things. If you can't come, because you can't come this year, there's so many people who want to come but they can't come. So this is a way to kind of live vicariously through that and be able to do some creative stuff as well. So the other part
wow.
is, so that's my Italy. That's
Okay.
one sort of branch, one little plate that I'm spinning.
Yeah.
And then the other part is the course that I'm launching this summer is for creative entrepreneurs
Okay.
who are looking to find venues to teach at that
Okay.
are not your, like you can walk into a restaurant and you can ask them, but these are more the kind of venues that have gates in front of them and gatekeepers. So you need to kind of get to these venues in a different way. So that's sort of an online video-based course that I'm doing. But then if you're wanting to kind of work with me a little bit more intensively, then that is more, I'm going to call it probably a mastermind. The
Yeah.
way that I see it is we'll be working together with a smaller group of people for about 6 months, so we can kind of get to know each other. And we would be painting together. I would put out, tutorials so you don't have to go searching for them, but also for learning, teaching you how to find your own creative style. It might not be painting, but
Mm,
that's a good inroad. It's an easy way to just kind of do it and kind of get a routine going in a hobby. You might have start hobbies left, right, and
mm,
center, but I want to create a system around it so that you can kind of keep it going
mhm.
and you don't have to do all the thinking. I'm doing the thinking for you. All you need to do is pour your glass of wine on a Friday night and turn on the
Wow.
laptop and there we go.
Oh, I just love this so much. This is just wonderful. I'm excited for this. So the best way for people to connect with you is
Probably
through
a
your email,
DM. Mhm. Probably
DM.
even email or just a DM in LinkedIn is a
Okay.
very easy way to get to me or any other wherever you're listening to this podcast, you can find me on other social medias. My business is called Create with Camilla.
Wonderful.
Very easy, very simple.
Yeah. And I think I love your idea too of launching your the painting along with you in Italy video, because what a great way for people to get to know you, right? And so then the next year you do this, you'll be like, then you can show up and do it in person. So what a great pathway to connect with you. And I love the idea of your mastermind too. So just a really, really cool niche you have. I think it is amazing. I just love what you do. Is there anything else you want to say? Before we do that, just tell me like a fun fact. You've shared some things like living in Italy. I mean, you've got a really just fun, dynamic background with your corporate work. You went to Italy. Your girls were born in Italy. But tell us a fun fact about you that you'd like to share, if we didn't already talk about it.
Sure, sure. Now, when it relates to the arts world, then I would probably say a thing that I never ever painted with anything resembling even oils or arts until I was 32, I think.
Wow.
That's when I purchased my first, that's when I told you about being in England, Cambridge, England, and going to purchase my first acrylics.
Wow.
Before that, it had just been whatever, you dabble in like watercolor at school
Yeah.
and crayons and markers and whatever.
Yeah.
But so I never really held a paintbrush and put real paint on a canvas until I was 32.
So anybody can do this, right? I guess that's
And
really the point. Yeah.
that is my point. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And you make this so much fun. You're just lovely. Thank you for saying yes. I am so excited for this podcast episode to air. And I think you're like just such a breath of fresh air. And one of the things I had a side note I wanted to share that I have a friend that I met in one of the very first programs I ever took. She's an amazing artist. And when she paints, same thing, like she always wanted to just, to paint and be an artist. But she has like intentions that she puts underneath on the canvas before she even starts. Like she writes an intention, which I think is just such a cool thing to add that, what a great thing to set an intention for that project that you're doing or that part of your life that you're stepping forward with, just a little feather in your cap, but kind of
Oh, very
fun, you
cool.
know?
I love that. I love that idea.
So I love what you do. I hope I get to meet you in person. Literally when I hang up on my list is to go to Italy with you. That literally would be a highlight for me. And I hope everybody else listening in, come join the party. Just put that out there. Yeah, you're just a delight. So thank you for saying yes to me today. And is there anything else I've left out that you want to share? Make sure that people can connect with you and all these wonderful things that you're birthing into the world here.
Yes, no, because we've talked about so many different things. It'd be so many different links to add to it. So I feel like if there's anything that resonated with you, just slide me a DM, just send me a
Yeah.
DM, or connect with me on any of the social media channels. It's all there, and so just our email for
Okay.
sure. Email is a great way to get in touch with me, and then we can kind of strike up a good conversation about what it was that intrigued you. And
Oh.
even if you're not ready to step into any of these things, but if something just sparked, then that's a good place to start.
Mm.
And you know how it is, you don't ignore those sparks. It might not be my projects that you're going to be working with, but you can always start by listening to those sparks, the
Mm.
little nudges that you get, and then just working with, and I'd be happy to just have a chat with you. I always love listening to people. And I feel like sometimes I've been given a talent just to listen and to talk to
Wow.
people about what they're going through. And that's a fun part too.
Wow. I love that. So everyone
Share my
listening,
dream. Can I share my big
yes.
dream?
Oh, of course. Please share your big dream. What is your
My
big
big,
dream?
my big dream, I literally just birthed it, but it's kind of been there in the background a long
Yeah.
time. And so all these things that I'm doing are somewhat hopefully leading towards that. I want to have a retreat space or place, a center of some kind.
Mm.
I'm seeing it in my mind's eye somewhere in southern France, maybe, the lavender fields and everything, in a community there where people could come, or I can come because I'm not sure I'm going to live there all year round or not, but people could come and we could do really like retreats, like art retreats, but also just like
Mm.
wind down, relax, and just kind of get perspective on yourself, your life, what you're doing, just kind of a getaway, basically. And not an exclusive where you're like a castle on a hill, but like being part of the community, like have the local baker come in with
Yeah.
the breads and just doing like cooking classes with the lady down the street and kind of just absorbing that energy. Because every time that was part of my thing when I was 12, you know how like people want to be, firefighters or nurses or doctors or
Yeah.
whatever. We did, it was funny because I was part of an art contest and you were supposed to paint or draw what you wanted to be. And I drew like all the monuments that I knew in the world, like the Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty, and the Eiffel Tower, and whatever it was, the Colosseum, because I wanted to be a professional tourist. Would you believe
Wow.
it? I think I was 12.
Wow.
That was my dream. And, fast forward all these years, I had enough time to be traveling to different places, different parts of the world, in Asia, Europe, and North America through work and, of course, vacation and stuff. But I realized that it was not in the traveling that was enjoyable, but it was actually in the spending time at the place with the
Wow.
people,
Mm.
getting to know them. So for us to move to Italy was just amazing. And when I moved to England, I did that. I moved to New York because that's not my home either. So all the places you get under the skin of people a little bit and you get to
Mm.
understand what it is. And that's one of the things I want to share when I go to Italy. It's like I want to share what it was like to live there because you can have
Yeah.
historical facts about the Colosseum
Yeah.
and you're going to forget about it as soon as you get home. But what was it
Right.
like to have a kid go to school in Italy? What is the system
Yeah.
like? How do you get a work permit? All those kinds of fun things
Wow.
are different. So that's why I wanted to do that. I feel like France could be a place because Southern
Mm.
France and just kind of like a place to kind of go and just enjoy. And so my wanting to do this Italy trip now is to kind of get a feel for what people might want to do and how that would work. And then also the same thing about doing my mastermind. I could totally see, like at the
Yeah.
end of 6 months or at the end of whatever it is, that people would want to go on a little getaway and kind of just regroup and make sure you have your strategies in place for how you're going to do as you're kind of like pushed out of the nest, so to speak.
Oh, wow. That's magic. That's gold. I think that is a beautiful dream. And I hope that manifests and happens for you because I think that truly, I mean, I was thinking, even part of the process of being creative, so much of it is writing, is storytelling, it's painting, and also cooking,
Mhm.
like, so many of those things that we've talked about here and bringing it all together. What a beautiful thing to bring it all together to the end at a retreat like that. I mean, we all need that. And like I said in the beginning, earlier, the more the world moves towards AI and there's positives and negatives to that, the
For sure.
more we need exactly what you have to offer. We need this connection where we're sitting in a room without distractions, somewhere in France, somewhere in Italy, sipping a glass of wine, sharing stories, having community, right? Like, I get
Yes.
excited. I'm like,
I get excited too.
yeah, it's just beautiful. Sign me up. Like, I think it'd be amazing. Really.
Awesome.
Yeah. Love it. I love what you do. I love your dream. And so everybody please follow Camilla. You can follow her. So all on social media channels. You're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn for sure. I know that's where I've connected with you. And now everybody gets to hear you on this podcast. So reach out to her. I'm excited. And I love your posts. Like you do some beautiful posts. So just kind of fun. This is the beautiful part about social media and Zoom and these connections. We get to make connections like this. And some of the
Yeah.
most amazing people that are in my life I've met through, post COVID, on
Yeah.
Zoom. So,
Same here. Same here. It's
you know,
amazing.
it's a gift. Thank you. Thank you for
Oh,
sharing who you are. And I'm so grateful our paths have crossed.
me too. I look forward to
Yeah.
getting to know you better.
Yeah. And as I say at the end of every podcast, I say you are seen, you are heard, you are loved, you are valued, and reminded that you belong. Have an amazing day and keep stepping forward. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you have a few key takeaways that you can apply to your life. And if you don't mind, take a few moments and leave a review that lets other women know that we're here making a difference in your life and theirs as well. Also, be sure to click on the link for the next Speak course. Until we meet again, God bless.